So I'm in the kitchen. I'm staring at one of the knives I'm about to put away, like after doing the dishwasher. Like, so I'm unloading the dishwasher, like I'm getting the plates and the Tupperware and all that kind of stuff and putting it in the cabinets. And I remember picking up a knife and just looking at it for a second. And it wasn't dirty. It didn't have like weird like greens or meats or any like weird stains on it. The plastic handle wasn't like frayed, plastic wasn't coming off. It didn't have marks or smudges or any of that stuff. I remember looking at it and thinking that I wanted to end my life with it. And those intrusive thoughts got so bad, I probably was staring at it for like, I say like 5-10 seconds, but if I really were to pause for like 5-10 seconds, how weirded out would you be? So if like me and you were talking, I just stared at you for, if I just did that kind of pause, what do you think I'm thinking in that moment? That was when I was 12 years old. I'm about to turn 17. And I want to give you I believe three, I want to say. Yep, three biggest things that I've learned after 5 years of self improvement and genuinely changing the trajectory of my life forever. And just to make this 100% clear, I'm not going to be talking about how I built an aesthetic body. I'm not going to be talking about how I've journaled literally hundreds of hours. And I'm not going to be talking about how I have pages and pages and pages and notebooks filled with journal entries. And I've started an online business and I've started making money and I'm like awesome at socializing with 99% of people. I'm not going to go over any of that. This is going to be actual unfiltered, real advice because this is my unfiltered channel. If you don't know who I am Brandon Maloney. I am a calisthenics athlete / like athletic coach person. Essentially, what that means is I make videos about calisthenics and fitness, and then I sell you a paid product. This channel doesn't really have anything to sell you, at least right now. It may one day in the future, but this video specifically is just giving you unfiltered, complete, nothing but value. If you're not interested in that, click off. If you are interested in that, then let's get going. Lesson number 1. Challenges are complete BS. Doing the monk modes, doing the 70-day hards, doing the Adonis protocol. If you were in like Adonis gang when it first came out, I believe it's closed down now. Doing these protocols is kind of just like hiding your old identity. So if you've ever studied psychology or you've ever looked into like old psychology or philosophy or religion or any of those things, you've heard probably the concept of like your younger self, your internal child, your internal spirit. And when you do these challenges, how people frame it is you're becoming a new person, you're remodeling yourself for life, you're setting a new standard for the next 90 days. You're going to be Mr. Chad, top G, you're going to be that guy, you're going to do these things, and you're not going to fail, and you're going to be the most consistent and hardworking you're ever going to be for the rest of your life, and you're never going to change anything. And by day 90, you're going to be able to levitate, and you're going to get girls, and you're going to be rich and successful and have awesome abs, and you're going to be in awesome shape, and you're just going to be perfect 10 out of 10, and everything's going to be absolutely fantastic. What this is doing is it's kind of like masking your inner child. And everybody has like some type of trauma. Everybody has had like traumatic events that kind of characterize them into who they are and who they have become. And the thing is, I have to fix my camera, my fault, bro. And the thing is, when you do these challenges, it's not healing any of the initial trauma. The reason that we have bad habits isn't because of just a craving to do them. It's not just because of we're bored. It's not just because, oh, we got in the habit and now we have neural wiring. Our brains are stemming. Our brains are creating neural pathways, and that's why we jerk off 16 times a day. We have these habits because of the like spiritual crushing. And because we haven't healed, because we haven't dedicated time and even learned how to heal and fix ourselves and to repair ourselves, and telling like that inner you, like think about yourself like a couple of years ago. If you're watching this, you've probably been on self-improvement for a while. Think about yourself like a couple of years ago. When you were younger, think about like how just depressed and sad and like disgusted with yourself you constantly were. And maybe you have some of those memories blocked off, and it's probably because you did some of these challenges or like modes or whatever they're called, or protocols or whatever you want to call them. Imagine when you have those urges to fap, to do junk food, to binge watch, to lose sleep because of the fact that like you have poor mental health or whatever. Imagine saying to like your younger self, your literal inner child, like saying to the younger you, like literally, like this sounds super gay, but like going in front of him and just giving like the kid a hug and just telling him that you don't have to feel this way because you're not that person anymore. I got you. This is something that I kind of experimented with a while ago. And me and my girlfriend at the time actually did it together. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's actually making me like a little bit emotional. Like if you've ever met me, like I'm not a crier. I'm not like an upset type of guy. I'm not an emo depressed type of person. Maybe my parents disagree because I always am emo or am depressed for some reason, but whatever. If you're like one of my buddies, you've never probably noticed that ever, unless you're like one of my close friends. Just speaking about it now makes me a little bit emotional because going through the process of going through each individual, so this is like your action step, going through each individual like pain point, each individual memory. When I was talking about in the beginning how I wanted to kill myself, and I was talking about in the beginning how like VAP 16 times a day, that's stuff that I actually did. That's stuff that actually gave me like proper trauma responses, and it's because of ways that I was living before, whether it was my fault or not. Like obviously as a young kid, I can't blame like myself entirely because like there's people around me and I'm being managed and I'm too young to even understand how life works. But when you get older, once you're 13, 14, 15, it starts to become your responsibility and people expect you to already know how to fix it. And I'm telling you, I swear, doing these challenges, doing these weird protocols, doing these monk mode for 90 days, got to lock in on my business, bro. Not socializing with people, not going out in nature, prioritizing work, prioritizing like these self-improvement habits. Yeah, your mental health will go out proportionate to where you were, but it's always going to be like a spiritual crushing because if you think about it, if you have like, this is going to be an interesting analogy. If you have a black hole that's literally like tearing apart the world around it, if you just put it in a suitcase, yeah, you can't see the black hole. Let's say it's like some weird like antimatter or light matter, like whatever you want to call it, suitcase that like doesn't get instantly absorbed by the black hole. It's like the densest material known to mankind. Like it's strong. What happens is the black hole like tears away at this like kind of newfound like box. And if you look at people like Tate, for example, Tate is probably like Andrew Tate. We're talking about like the top G. Tate is probably like one of the most trauma-ridden humans I've seen in my entire life. Like the constant like talking about how he's anxious, the constant talking about like he can't sleep at night, the constant challenges and childhood that he had and the upbringing and coping and saying he had the best father ever and he had the best upbringing ever and all that type of stuff and saying success is the only thing that matters. And now he's like transitioning to God and all that kind of stuff. But that stuff doesn't matter if you're broken. You can have all of the success that you want. You can have all of the life influences, all the people around you, all the women, all the cars, all of the anything, all of the meditation. I've meditated 269 minutes today, bro. You can have all of that. But the thing is, you're just kind of like padding to the suitcase. You're just making it stronger. The black hole is still there. It's still eating you up from the inside. And I'm not saying I'm an expert in this. I haven't solved this problem. Literally tonight, and I'm going to be 100% honest, it is currently 3 a.m. I've been up since yesterday at 7 a.m. I have not slept yet. I've done tons of caffeine. I've been working. I've been studying. I've been training. I've been doing all that stuff because I'm going through a period right now where that black hole is kind of tearing away at the suitcase. And the reason why I'm bringing this up and the reason why it's even in my head, I believe, is to help you. I'm fairly like religious when it comes to these things. I'm a Christian. I try and be as dedicated as I can. And obviously I fail in literally every possible measurable way. But the thing I will say about myself is that when I get into these stages, when I like go deep into religion, I always come out just a little bit better. And the thing is, these challenges aren't the thing that's going to change your life permanently. The reason why these challenges work is because they give you a temporary result that's honestly really good. That makes you feel good. That makes you feel fresh. Makes you feel renewed. But also, it pushes it so far down. But by the time that you're done with it, you actually don't feel it anymore. And it's very small and it's very masked. And then it'll come out in phases, months later, years later, even decades later in some people. And it'll come out. And you won't know what it is. And the longer that you keep it pushed down, the longer that you keep padding to the suitcase, the worse it is going to be when it comes out. I've ruined relationships. I've ruined friendships. I've had an ego. I've done huge wrong. I've done like this weird autistic, like ADHD stuff with my business and with my channel and reading books and setting new fitness goals and changing up my routine randomly and all this type of stuff because of this like inner childhood. Like at the end of the day, like one of my biggest fears, like if I'm just being 100% transparent with you, is that I know that I can be a highly successful individual in literally anything that I choose. And I already kind of am. I am a literally top 1% student, top 5% student. I have like a 4.2, 4.3 GPA weighted. I'm in one of the most advanced educational programs in my country. I was a varsity wrestler in like my first season on. I was a national level volleyball player. I'm like already starting online business. In a couple months and I've made hundreds of dollars. Again, isn't a lot, but still pretty decent considering the size of my channels and all that type of stuff. Made decent bit of money, more money than I've literally had in my life at one point. Like, which is kind of crazy to say because I've been broke for a while. Like personally, my family isn't like we're decently well off. You see the guitars and like the Chinook behind me, and like this is a fake leather couch, but it's like good fake leather. So like all that type of stuff. I have like a decent business laptop here. Like we're decently well off, but I haven't had money like personally. I've done all this stuff. I had for a time pretty much a girl of my dreams. And this ego and the lack of fixing old like childhood traumas, old problems, just trauma in general, just kind of broke me. And I'm going through the process of kind of picking up the old pieces. And the suitcase shattered. And instead of making it a suitcase, I'm going to repair it into a balcony. And you get to look off it and you get to see the rest of the world. Think about how beautiful that is. Instead of having to hide your inner self, you get to show younger you what it is that it's experiencing, what it is that he or she or they or them or whatever you want to call yourself, what it is that they're experiencing. It's beautiful. So actionable step, just while we're in it, I've kind of like lost the mood of recording and all that kind of stuff just because it's making me think. But I want to be authentic and I want to keep going just for the sake of helping you. Your inner child, your inner like younger self is always 100% going to be a part of you in your developmental. If you want to think about it scientifically, in your developmental stages, your brain forms like 90% of its pathways. The reason why you're addicted to porn and lust and all that type of stuff, and you're inconsistent and get stuck in ruts constantly and have no energy, is because of these pathways that form, that program you, literally program you to be this way. You have control right now to undo some of that programming, but that programming is always going to be there, like kind of in the background. It's like when you run a computer program. The old versions of the software are still there. Minecraft 1.0 is still like integrated within Minecraft, if that makes sense. Like we're on version like 10 point whatever. There's been like 10, 20, 30, 50 versions of Minecraft. Version 1.0 is still there under the back burner. But now that's pushed down. But the thing is, using the game example, it still shines through. You still have the block textures. You still have the basic fundamentals of the gameplay. You as a human still basically, your fundamentals are based on who you were from ages 3 all the way up to 25 when your brain is developing. Take this time now. If you're within that age range, take this time now to do a complete 180 in the direction that you want to go. Or if you're older than that, understand that, yeah, I'm probably programmed to be like this, but habits can still be formed, change can still be made. And while I might not be able to literally redevelop my brain, I can improve on it and maximize my potential even further. It's going to be hard for you guys, but it is 100% possible for you to be doing. If you're below the age of 25, then yeah, do a 180, do all the stuff you need to do, work on the healing, work on your religion, work on I call them like the 5 pillars. You have spirituality, which is like your religious beliefs. You have mental health, which is like your meditation, gratitude journaling, all that type of stuff. You have, my order is fitness. So this would be like middle of my totem pole. It would be fitness, and then it would be relationships, and then it would be business. You can modify those however you want, but I would argue that these 2 should always be the most important. These last 3 can shift. So that would be like fitness, and then relationships, and then business. These 3 can kind of shift depending on the period that you're in. Even this one can kind of move sometimes, but these 2, the spirituality or religious belief, and like how it is your mental health is forming should always be the priority. Live how you want to live, but you need to incorporate your younger version of yourself in order to do that. That's all I have to say for that. Next thing. Most students on self-improvement equal the science-based lifters in gym culture. So if you don't know, like there's a meme online, like there's bro lifters and then there's science-based lifters, because we have to separate everybody into two groups. Bro lifters say just lift, throw up heavy weight. They do bad technique, they do cheat reps, they train really hard, all that type of stuff. Science lifters are like the Jeff Nippards and the Mike Israels, and kind of like the critical thinkers, but they critical think the wrong way to like the highest degree of the stereotype. So like they'll do these weird exercises and they'll do like they'll press up like this, and then they'll do like the one arm twisting motion to get more lat activation, and then they'll like and then they'll be like 10 or 20 reps to failure, all that type of stuff. What I want to tell you is I was actually one of these for a long time, and I'm kind of switching more into like the Alex Hormozi type mindset, where it's like just kind of do what it is you got to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do the task. If your performance is within 70%, then you're completely fine. What I've kind of realized is a lot of guys are like optimal lifters, but when it comes to self-improvement. So they don't work if they get bad sleep. They don't do the stuff they have to do if they get bad sleep. If they eat wrong, they kind of skip out on habits they're supposed to be doing. If they sleep wrong, they skip out on habits they're supposed to be doing. They know about like habit creation and timetables. And if their timetable says do meditation at 6:30 a.m., if it says do meditation at 6:30 a.m., but it's like 6:35 and like they normally do 15 minutes, but they have 10 minutes until they have to do the next thing, which is like their deep work block. They kind of just don't do it, and they kind of get too structured and they get too ingrained into the thinking of everything has to be perfect all the time or else it just won't work. That's completely categorically false. If we're to put this into the category of making our best progress, we understand that 99.9% of the time, you're not going to be at 10 out of 10. There's periods where you're going to get bad sleep. There's periods where you're going to have fitness and goals that aren't working because you're injured or you hurt yourself or you're just not feeling it or this exercise isn't working or you're traveling so you don't have equipment or, oh, your bank account doesn't work so you're not able to pay like the people who have to pay for your business because your employees, like they have a salary and you have to pay them and, oh, your card doesn't work. You're in a weird country. You're not able to fix it. People are mad at you. The people are going homeless, whatever. Stuff happens. I've obviously experienced all of these issues. The thing is, I've kind of thought about this. You should always, and I thought about this literally today when I was going for a walk. So like around 1 a.m., I literally walked around like my pool for like an hour, maybe a little bit less, but it was like a decent amount of time where I was mostly just thinking. And I kind of had the thought to myself, if your schedule doesn't allow you to maintain at, I'm going to rephrase that actually. If your schedule isn't easy when you're at 7 out of 10, like ability, so when you're at like 7 out of 10, like feel wise, so like you didn't sleep very well, you're not eating perfectly, like your fitness is meh, like you kind of just feel like you're not at the stage where you're like fully depressed, but you're like getting there, you feel. If you're not able to do 7 out of 10 work with your routine and still progress in things you want to progress in, and this is kind of like my first time saying it out loud, so my bad if it comes out a little bit weird. But if you're not able to like maintain a 7 out of 10 with your routine, then you're either doing too much, or if 7 out of 10 is like if you do 7 out of 10 effort in whatever, then you're like, oh, this is easy. And then you have like 8 hours of free time a day, not including school, like which I don't even know how it's possible. You go to school for like 8 hours and then why are you not sleeping? Anyways, I'm criticizing you. I've told you I've been up for like 20 hours. Anyways. The point is, you should be able to maintain your routine on bad days. You shouldn't always do hyper optimal. I'm able to hit this. I'm able to do that. In like fitness, there's this concept called MRV, which is your maximal recoverable volume. What that essentially means is if you were to be able to recover from 20 sets, assuming your diet is perfect, your sleep is perfect, whatever. Let's say you do 20 sets Monday. That's a maximum you can do before you train again Thursday. So let's say you do like 20 sets of chest. We can get like yoked with it. 20 sets of chest, for example. If you were to get bad sleep one night in between Monday and Thursday, you're not recovered. Now you're actually going to make less progress if you do the same amount of work you're supposed to do. But if you're at your MRV, which is like everything perfect, sleep well, supplements well, maybe a little bit of steroids or extra sauce or whatever, you're just essentially able to recover well. If you're always doing everything perfect, your MRV is 20. You maintain at 20 until you can't anymore. Most people, especially younger guys, you know for sure your routine isn't perfect. You're not doing the consistent habits you're doing every day. I know I don't. I know you don't. You know you don't. Don't lie. Even if you have a habit tracker and all the habits have been ticked for like the past just 2 months, 6 months, whatever, if you're able to do that, then it's not challenging. You're equivalent to the guy who goes to the gym for the first time, does like 10 different random chest machines, goes home, and then shows up again like 4 days later when he feels like it. You're just going through the motions. You should get to the point to where you have roughly a 70% success rate in my mind. So it can be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, and I haven't thought about this like a crazy amount, but 70%, if you're able to maintain that, then that is perfect. You want to have a routine to where sometimes you fail, sometimes you do good. And you want to get to the point to where you're constantly pushing your MRV, so your maximal recoverable volume, to the point to where your 7 out of 10 becomes a 6 out of 10, and then a 5 out of 10, then 4 out of 10, and then you add more over time, and you do more, and you maximize your life even more. And your life is referring to those 5 things I mentioned before: your spirituality, your mental health, your fitness, your relationships, and your work. All these things are super, super important. And everybody constantly tries to push their MRV to the absolute maximum when it comes to these things. Stop. Calm down. If you found yourself in a rut and you're trying to push everything hard, you're like, I'm going to do 4 hours of deep work a day, and then I'm going to do 2 hours of training a day, and I'm doing push pull legs 6 times a week. I'm going to read 4 hours a day. And you haven't been able to do any of that stuff to 10% of what I mentioned before. So 10% of, like, if you're going to the gym for 2 hours, 10% would be 20 minutes. Shut up. I know that's not 10%. Shut up. Rounding it up to 100. Shut up. That would be 10 per, that'd be what's 24 minutes, I think. I don't even know. Wait, no. 20%. 20% of 120. It'd be 2040. I can do math. I'm Asian. I'm Japanese. Don't mess with me. Anyways. If you're to the point to where you can't even do 10% of that, 20% of that, whatever, why are you trying to do more? Are you mentally retarded? You're like, oh, I'm not able to squat 200 kilos, so I'm going to put 250 kilos on the bar. I don't swear, but are you fucking dumb? Are you really that mentally retarded? No, of course not. You're a smart guy. You're watching this video. You have a decent attention span. We're 20 minutes in. I've been rambling and yabbling and all these types of things for the past 20 minutes. I don't remember if this was a video I adjusted my balls or not. That could have been the last one I recorded. You've been listening to me ramble on and giving you advice that genuinely is just meant to help you. You're obviously going to go far. Chill out. You know, in the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're going to be massively more successful with whatever it is you want to be successful in than you are now. So just chill. Progress slower rather than faster, because if you progress too fast, you risk burnout. If you progress too slow, yes, you're not going to make the best progress you can, but just like weightlifting, it's better to add 2.5 kilos per workout than 5 kilos per workout, because if you add too much, you're not going to hit your rep ranges. You're not going to be able to do the amount of sets you need to do. You're going to get injured because you're adding weight too quickly. Your form's going to get bad, all that type of stuff. Start slow now, ramp it up, have a plan, write down in Notion, like a Notion document like this. This is where I do my script. Write down in a Notion document your plan. When I'm able to do X thing with relative ease, I'm going to up it to this. When I'm able to do this timetable, when I jot out my day and I jot out 3 dedicated blocks. So when I wake up at 6 a.m. I do like an hour-long morning routine where I do some exercise and I do some self-improvement habits and all that type of stuff. Then I go to school. Then like I'll chill at home for a little bit. Then I know 5 p.m. I'm going to go to the gym. Cool. After the gym, I can do whatever I want. 8 p.m. is my nighttime routine. 9 p.m. is my nighttime routine. That's where I chill. That's where I put on like some nice lo-fi music. That's where I light some candles. If obviously most people don't have access to this, I've never done this. I'm just giving some examples. That's when I take a warm shower and then switch to a cold and then end off on warm just to get my muscles relaxed. I'll do some stretching. I'll read a little bit, that type of thing. And then over time, be like, okay, I know I have a little bit of free time in between the gym and my nighttime routine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a deep work block, 30 minutes, an hour. I'm just going to get some schoolwork done. If you get into the cycle of doing that, eventually, bada bing, bada boom, your whole day's planned out. It sounds super simple, and it is. Just most people don't think about that because nobody talks about it. Most people okay, this is going to be like a weird piece of advice. But most people have like an internal GPT. So essentially, you don't, if you've meditated or like done some research on psychology or like whatever, you actually don't come up with like your own thoughts. Your brain does like subconsciously, and it kind of spits it out to you over and over. So, like everything I've been saying, I'm not thinking about the words before I say it, I just say them. This is how it works for essentially everybody. Unless you're like trying to really emphasize a point or trying to think about like, okay, how can I construct this in a way? But even then, those thoughts are coming to you automatically. You're just picking which ones to say. When you go through the cycle of like picking your own individual words, and I kind of forgot my point already because I was yapping about something else. What was I saying? Hold on. Wait. All right, like I was saying before, I just remembered. Your brain has like its own internal GPT. You can only really have thoughts that you have thought of before. And the only way you can have thought of those thoughts before was if someone said them to you, heard them somewhere, or if something happened. Yes, you can create your own thoughts, but that's under the caveat of previous experience. That's why old people are traditionally super wise, just because they've heard a lot. But if you have a 20-year-old who's lived in a bunch of different places, done a bunch of different things, who has a bunch of crazy life experiences, who dedicated his life to learning, didn't have any bad habits, didn't waste his time ever, always worked, always did his best, whatever, he's also going to be super wise because he's done a lot and he's experienced a lot. Even though he is relatively young, the proportion of his life experience to his age is actually super high versus the 70 or 80-year-old who hasn't really done much, who for 40 years of his life kind of did like the same life, didn't really do anything new, didn't really hang out with new people, kind of just stuck with his wife, never really went out, always worked the same job, whatever. The proportion of his age to his level of wisdom is actually going to be kind of low. They know, though, relatively the same amount, maybe even slightly biasing the old person because they have similar life experience. So if you want ideas to where you can actually generate your own thoughts and actually progress in your own way, listening to a ton of different people, getting a ton of different feedback from different creators and all that type of stuff, YouTube is honestly overpowered as like a tool to consume just for like the sake of generating thoughts. And it's good to be by yourself in some cases because it is actually possible to generate your own stuff. Through journaling, through deep thinking, through like meditation, all that type of stuff, you can genuinely like think about your own thoughts. And if you genuinely sit down and go, what's a new thought that I can have that is unique to me that I think about very often? I always come up with the quote, do your best to doing your best. I hear that in my head all the time. I don't remember if anyone said it to me. I don't remember if I took it from anywhere. When I tell the story about like how I got it, I always say I heard it like on a podcast somewhere. I actually don't know if that's entirely true. I just heard in my head one day, do your best to doing your best. That really stuck with me. I've journaled about it a ton. I've talked to a ton of people about it. That is my saying. I copyright it. You cannot have it. It is my patent. For you, it might be something different. If you look up like Hamza, for example, on YouTube, it's do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. If you look up Alex Hormozi, it's do so much volume, it would be unreasonable for you to fail, or something along those lines. If you look up Tate, his thing is my unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer infatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. Those are all thoughts that I've heard a ton, which is why I'm able to just internally chat GPT them to you. Get good at consuming content in the right way, watching educational content like this where somebody yaps on a camera for 30 minutes, just saying their thoughts, being completely authentic. Authenticity breeds authenticity. If you see someone who's being authentic, as long as you don't consume only that person and you don't consume too much content, you will actually become more authentic because of it. Because if they give really good advice on how to do a specific thing, then you're able to talk about that specific thing. Then you're able to remodel it into a way that makes more sense for your own brain. Then you're able to explain it to people, and then you're able to explain to people nuance, and then you're able to explain to people and have conversation with actual experienced people who also give nuance. And going up the ladder, going up the pyramid of less complicated to more complicated, less complicated being you watched a YouTube video, more complicated being you're having an internet argument or an in-person argument with someone who's really, really good at the thing, and you have to take away all of like your key memories. if you go through that process, preferably a couple of times, you're actually going to get really, really good at conveying thoughts in your own way when it comes to that specific subject. And if we think about like our knowledge in a sphere, it's not like we branch out everywhere. We branch out in each individual direction because of this, like, I'm going to call this like the content creation strategy. This is why like I do these unfiltered journals, because I've never had that thought before. When I call this like the content consumption strategy, it's consuming content online to where you can form your own opinion, to where you're able to talk about that opinion, to where you're able to actually become more authentic in a field that you otherwise couldn't be authentic in, because you would just have to pirate like chat GPT advice of like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Anyways, that's the second thing. So we've went over challenges or BS, monk mode, 70-day hard, all that type of stuff is complete nonsense. Second thing, most dudes on self-improvement are the equivalent to science-based lifters who are 10 reps away from failure every set. The third thing, and this is going to be completely crazy because this has probably been like a mind scrub. Like if you're a deep thinker, this is probably like screwed with your head a little bit. This third thing is something that I started doing recently. I did it for like to the scale that I have today. I did it for 1 hour, like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, something along those lines. Maybe a little bit more if you count like the mini micro sessions. Going for a long walk. There's something crazy. Like this could just be me, but I'm somebody who's never really been like allowed to go places, I guess I could say, because like it's always been like my parents taking me, or I'd have a friend take me, or I would like go on the bus to school or whatever. I've never like went places. And seeing the world around, seeing like how awesome it is, and the lakes and the houses, and I live in like a relatively normal area. Like again, I mentioned before, we're like middle class family, maybe like upper middle class, maybe, I don't know, we're comfortable. Anyways, we don't live in like any kind of fancy neighborhood. The house we live in is like 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, something along those lines. Like we live decent neighborhood, like not a ton of crime, not no crime. You kind of get the gist. We don't have like a gated community, whatever. We live in like a regular like urban suburban area, like whichever one is like the not whichever one just isn't the city. We don't live in like a city. We live in a city, but it's not like a city. Going around, going to the different markets and going to the stores and just walking around and like buying a coffee or like buying some gum. When I went today, I bought literally just like, because I had braces for a couple of years, I literally just bought like a ton of gum. And I bought 2 coffees. Both of them were chocolate. They were delicious. I drank both of them, and that's probably why I've been awake for as long as I've been awake. It is absolutely fantastic, and I don't regret it in the slightest, because caffeine is awesome, and you should be taking all of it. Anyways, as I was saying, going for a long walk actually let me think a ton and just reflect and kind of just see things in a different light. And just being able to interact with people, like small stuff, like saying hello to the lady who sat like a couple chairs next to me when I was outside of I think it was like either an alcohol store, like a smoke shop. I sat outside I obviously didn't go in because like I'm a minor or whatever, and I really shouldn't have put this in my mouth because I'm going to be chewing on it. And I think the mic picks it up. But let me chew it a little bit so it gets like soft so I can keep talking. Everyone clicks off. Just small stuff. Being able to interact, having the ability, and this is why online business is so cool. If I had more money, I swear, I would go out, I would buy a ton of stuff. Stuff I probably didn't need, probably mostly snacks and food and all that kind of stuff. And I would just like enjoy my leisure time. Like it'd be so cool to be able to do that because I've never done that before. I don't know if you have, and maybe if you have, then this advice is like completely irrelevant to you. But it took me years before I went for like an hour walk by myself, not really on my phone, and just lets you think. Like we mentioned before, thinking about like the inner child, thinking about the all like mental stuff, having like a spiritual journey of like doing your best to pray and talk to God on the way and all that kind of stuff. It makes a difference. And the thing is, especially when you have free time, what's the alternative? I could have been in my house reading, didn't really feel like it. I could have done another training session, didn't really need to. walking would kind of be equivalent because I'd have to go light anyway because I had another more important session later. Could have did some work. Didn't really need to have a bunch of stuff scripted. Doesn't really take that long to script stuff. Mostly just have to record right now. Can't do it really because my nephew's here and he doesn't shut up. Mostly joking. Love him very much. What was my alternative? Going for a walk. Genuinely kind of changed the trajectory of my life because that's an experience and I'm going to remember forever. I remember I was walking with a ex-girlfriend and we had went around to like stores and she was going like shopping for her family and I decided to tag along just because I wanted to be helpful or whatever, and I mostly just wanted to see her. And we had went shopping and we ended up not getting anything, but like we had walked around and there were like lakes and bikes and like bike parks and like different parks and all this type of stuff, and I was just like in amazement of kind of just what was out there. And she looked at me and she was like, "Oh yeah, I grew up here." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, me and like my old friend group would come around here all the time and like play on bikes and like do all this kind of stuff, and we would hang out and we would like get in the woods. And one time I cut my hand like on a fishing line. Like my sister's such a jerk." Like the story behind that is her sister had like thrown a fishing line on her hand because she was mad at her, and like they got into a huge scuffle. This girl was tough, country girl. But I remember just looking at it and being like, wow, I've missed this. Going on like small adventures, small walks, always leaves the opportunity to like experience something. And as a guy, as a young guy, you don't really have many experiences. And honestly, I can say I don't. I've played national level volleyball player. I was a varsity wrestler. I've done some traveling for those two things. But I don't really have stories. And yeah, I have like my own personal stuff, like my journey and my self improvement stuff, but only other self improvement care about that. Go experience things because then you're going to turn into me, who has small legs, jacked upper body, small online business, talks to people on the internet lots of the day, has tons of friends within school, but doesn't really hang out with people a ton outside of school. Single, lonely, no friends, and no stories. Again, I'm mostly joking. I think I'm pretty dope. I wouldn't trade what I have for more experiences. I would just get more experiences, but kind of get what I mean with this point. That's been everything. I just ask you to subscribe to make our movement huge. It would be absolutely hilarious to me if my unfiltered channel got bigger than my actual like main calisthenics channel where like I make my money. If you would like to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Comment how this video helped you, thoughts that you've had, all that kind of stuff. My name has been Brandon. Keep doing the best and doing your best. Trust God. Signing off.